Hi, welcome to the channel. In this quick tutorial, I'll show you how to conduct the paired sample t-test in SPSS. Now, what you need to know about the paired sample t-test is that you have one group of subjects. You have one set of cases, and from this single set of cases, you have what is known as the before and the after data, or a first case and a second case, but from the same set of individuals. Now, the paired sample t-test is different from the independent sample t-test. If you want to know how to do the independent sample t-test using the SPSS, just look above this video and you'll find a link on the 3 simple steps to conduct the independent sample t-test using the SPSS IBM software. Here we are in SPSS, and I'm going to show you in 3 quick steps how you can set up and execute your paired sample t-test using this software. Now, to set up the data is going to be a little bit different from what we did for the independent sample t-test. Now, don't forget that in the paired sample t-test, you're obtaining data from the same individuals in 2 separate occasions. Now, in SPSS, one row represents a case. Row 1, for example, stands for one case. And so if you're going to have 2 sets of data from the same individual, then those 2 data points must be on the same row for each individual. So I'm going to set up this quickly for us to see how to execute that. So if I double tap on the first variable, it brings me to the variable view. So the first thing I'm going to define is I'm going to give each individual an ID, and the ID does not need any decimal place. It's just a nominal value. The second thing is going to be data, in which we are going to look at the differences between the expenses in January and the expenses in February for the same individuals. So this is going to be numeric by default. The expenses will be scale, and also here the expenses will be scale. Basically, that's all we need to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to have 10 cases, and for each of those cases we have a January expense and we have a February expense. So what we want to do in this paired sample t-test is to see if there's a significant difference between the January expenses and the February expenses of this single group of individuals. So this single group of individuals consists of 10 cases, from which we are going to take this value, January expenses and February expenses. So I'm not going to waste time. I'm going to take you straight to the data that I've already populated, having defined these parameters. So here we are with the 10 cases. We have the January expenses and we have the February expenses. The last thing to do is to just execute this analysis. So once again, we head to our analysis tab and we go to compare means, and under compare means, you're going to see paired sample t-test. You click on paired sample t-test. What we're going to do is we are going to define the pair. And so what we want to compare is the difference between the January expenses and the February expenses. So we're going to take the January expenses. You can use your shift button and add the February, and you send them into this box. Now, the other thing you need to do is to look at the options, and you find it's already 95% confidence interval, which is representative of an alpha value of 0.05. So you may not even need to bother yourself, except for any reasons you want to change your level of significance. So having done that, all we need to do is click OK, and there we are. The analysis takes us to the output window. And in the output window, the first thing we see is the paired sample statistics. So you can see that the January expenses are 78, while the February expenses is a mean value of 77. So there's just a slight difference. Now, there's also a paired sample correlation that is conducted for us. So is there a correlation between January expenses and February expenses? Yes, there's a correlation. We have 10 values, and there's a correlation of 0.66. That is a positive correlation. And of course, it is a significant correlation. So that's some other information that you get from conducting the paired sample t-test. Now, down here, when you look at this, the paired sample t-test result itself, it tells us that the difference between the January and the February data is just 0.40, 0.4. And the SIG is 0.893. What this is simply telling us is that there's no significant difference between the January expenses and the February expenses. This is how simple it is to conduct the SPSS paired sample t-test within 3 simple steps. If you've enjoyed this video and you would like to watch more on SPSS, click on the subscribe button, and also don't forget to share, like, and comment. See you in the next video.